Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. So Hare Krishna dear devotees, thank you for joining us. I'd like to seek your good wishes and blessings so that we can say something, share something which will please the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees, and also help us advance towards our supreme destination, which is to link with, get our relationship together again with the Lord. So today is a very auspicious day. It's the Gundicha Marjan, and that is the cleansing of the Gundicha Mandir. And we have some really good news that the Indian government is allowing Rath Yatra to take place tomorrow in Jagannath Puri. So it means we don't have to cancel our air tickets. We're all set to go. And tomorrow we'll be celebrating Rath Yatra. But before Rath Yatra takes place, the temple where Lord Jagannath goes is cleaned. So then the Lord will arrive in a very pure place. And the cleaning of the Gundicha temple has significant meaning for us. And I wanted to go through that a little bit later. This verse appears in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in the Madhya Lila 12 chapter 74th verse. So we can just do the invocation of Chaitanya Charitamrita first. Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Paticha Kahe Ami Sava Sevaka Tomara Ye Tomara Icha Se Kartavya Amara.
Upon hearing the Lord's request for them to wash the Gundicha temple, the Padicha, the superintendent of the temple, said, "My dear sir, now all your servants, whatever you desire is our duty to perform."
So this was just a little bit of background in the past, and we'll cover this a little bit later as well. The Gundicha temple would be cleaned because it was unoccupied for nearly a year minus 8 days. So it would gather lots of dust, and especially with the open style architecture in Bharat of the temples, a lot of dust would gather, a lot of dirt. So the day before Jagannath goes there, it would be cleaned. And it would be generally cleaned by the king's servants or the government officers or the different pandits, pujaris. But during the time of Lord Chaitanya, he started a new tradition. He asked permission from the superintendent of the Gundicha temple to allow him and his devotees to clean the temple. So from then on, this tradition has continued over 500 years ago. So we'll come to that later. This is just a bit of background behind this verse. So before we go to Jagannath Puri, I hope you all got your passports ready and valid visas. Otherwise, we'll be turned away at the airport back to the UK. So there are this concept of Char Dham, very beautiful concept. Bharat is divided into these 4 abodes of the Lord. In the north, we have Badrinath Ashram, Dham. In the south, Rameshwar. In the west, in Dwarka, in Gujarat, we have Dwarka. And in the east, we have Jagannath Puri. I wanted to ask, has any devotee present been to all of these places? Has anybody been to any of these places?
No.
And that's
I've been just to Puri, that's all.
Okay,
The other 3.
nice. And
I think Rameshwar Dham is no.
in the
I
south.
thought it was in Punjab.
No, that's right in
no,
like Kanyakumari.
this is it. So we have in the north, Badrinath Puri. And then south, here is Rameshwar, is in the south, all the way down. And this is where Lord Ramachandra and the monkey army built the bridge to cross into Sri Lanka, Lanka. And this is Jagannath Puri and Dwarka. So these are 4 Dham. There's another Char Dham, which is Uttarakhand, that's right, which is, again, includes Badrinath, includes Kedarnath, Gangotri, and Yamunotri. That's right. So, now, different activities of the Lord occur at different places. At Badrinath, he's in deep meditation. At Rameshwar, that's where he takes his bath. In the Rameshwar temple, there are 18 kunds where you can bathe. In Dwarka, he takes rest, has a good sleep. And Jagannath Puri, he eats. He has so many offerings every single day and huge quantities. So this is where he served a lot of bhoga by the Lord, by the devotees in huge quantities. So it's very interesting. So this is Odisha, where Jagannath Puri is. It used to be called Orissa. And this is Jagannath Puri here. And this is the Bay of Bengal, the ocean. And just a little bit more closer look into Jagannath Puri itself. This is the Jagannath Temple. It's based on a road called Grant Road, but I don't know why they've got Bada Shankar there. Right?
That's what it means in that.
Oh, is it? Okay, Grant Road. Right.
Bada means grand.
Oh, yeah, true. And that's right, because this is all a conch, isn't it?
The shape of the conch.
Yeah. So, this is the Jagannath Temple, and the Rath Yatra procession takes place on this road, and it goes to Gundicha Temple. It's about 3 kilometers, about 2 miles from Jagannath Temple. Today, we are going to be working here in the Gundicha Temple. This is Jagannath Temple. There is the Jagannath Temple with the wonderful flag, and the disc, chakra. And you can see this road is very wide. It's a huge road and very wide road as well. And the reason is because of the Rath Yatra, which we'll see a little bit more tomorrow. Why? And this is the other side. This is Gundicha, 2 kilometers, 2 miles away. And Gundicha is a very open plan temple. It's a huge complex. And within the complex, there are many buildings. We'll just go through that in a second. And there's a Nishinga temple just here, which is quite a significant Nishinga temple. There's a little bit closer look at the entrance of the Gundicha. Unfortunately, they don't allow photography inside the temple complex. So we don't have any photos of inside the temple. So what is this Gundicha Marjana? Now, this Gundicha temple is where Lord Jagannath appeared. If you recall the past time, if you were all there, Snan Yatra, we discussed how Jagannath appeared in the Dumna Swami, in the Dumna Maharaj. He had this incredible desire to see Nilamadhav, and unfortunately Nilamadhav's time was up, so he disappeared. But then Jagannath appeared instead, and there was this incredible pastime how he appeared as this divine log in the river, and how in the Dumna Maharaj and his servants brought the wood out. And then Vishwakarma came, and he was starting to make the deity, and this is what he made. This is the forms of Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra. They're static form. They looked incomplete, and Indradumna Swami Maharaj was very upset when he opened the door and he saw that he'd interrupted the carpenter's work. But actually, these are static forms of Lord Krishna, and his eyes are wide open because he's looking at, or he's remembering Radharani, and his hands are out like this. They want to hug us. And the hands also withdrew into himself, the feet withdrew into himself, because he was in the ecstasy of remembering his devotees. And same with Balaram and Subhadra. So these forms are not incomplete. They are complete forms of the ecstasy of God. very important forms of the Lord. So Gundicha temple is like the garden house of Lord Jagannath. It's where he goes every year for 7 days and chills out, enjoys actually, with Srimati Radharani and the Bijbasis. So this temple is named after King Indradumna's wife, whose name was Gundicha Maharani. The legend is that she saw the temple of Jagannath and he asked her husband, Dhanapati, please make a temple for me as well. And this is the temple they made. And it's, as we said, located 2 miles away from the Gundicha. Pretty, have you been to Gundicha temple when you went last year? Anyway, we can ask her later. So in this area of the Gundicha temple,
She came
I know.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
The
Did you?
people, yeah, I did go to Gundicha temple.
And did you do the cleansing?
Yeah, we did a bit of tidying up.
Ah, we are tidying up. Very good.
We did a bit of sweeping with our hands, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was fun. That was nice.
So that's what it is. But there's a huge meaning behind this mountain, which we'll come to in a little while. Very good. Thank you for sharing that. So Indradumna Maharaj also performed many sacrifices there in order to gain the mercy of Jagannath. So the temple complex is divided into 4 parts. There is the sanctum where Lord Jagannath will take his position with Baladev and Subhadra. There's the assembly hall, which is a little bit bigger, and in the festival hall, much bigger, in the offering hall, even bigger. And the kitchen is connected to the temple via a small passage. During Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and also Sudarshan, they leave the Jagannath temple for 9 days. 1 day is traveling to the Gundicha, although usually it takes 2 days. Then they spend 7 days in the Gundicha temple itself, being spoiled. And then they spend 1 day returning back to Jagannath temple. So 9 days away from the Jagannath temple. And this is the only deity, the kindness of Jagannath is he comes out to the outside of the temple to give us his darshan. Or actually, it's so that he can see us. He gets great joy in seeing us. And this journey to the Gundicha is called Navadin Yatra, 9 days journey. Apart from that, Gundicha temple generally has no activity, but we can go, when we go to Jagannath Puri, we visit Gundicha every time. So there are priests and pandas there, they do various bits of puja here and there. But in essence, there is really no activity going on there because no Jagannath. And it's controlled by the Jagannath temple administration. Jagannath temple is regarded like the Kurukshetra or Dwaka. It's opulent, it's very formal worship. But the Gundicha is regarded as Vrindavan, very simple worship, very beautiful mood, chilled out, relaxed, just like Vrindavan, but extraordinarily sublime. And that we will talk a little bit about more tomorrow. So the day before Rath Yatra, today, is this activity of Gundicha Marjana, which is the cleansing of the temple, to welcome Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. And as we said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started this tradition, and he was accompanied by hundreds of devotees. And he used this as an example to set to others how to clean the temple. Not just how to clean the temple, however, because the idea to clean the temple is to invite the Lord into the temple. But the significance, the hidden significance of this activity is to clean our hearts so that we can allow the Lord entrance into our hearts. So this is the real meaning behind Gundicha Marjana. And So this is Lord Chaitanya. You can see the devotees really engaged in some severe, thorough cleaning. Do you want to share some of the experiences we had?
So basically, the cleansing actually starts quite early in the morning. Devotees try and get there as early as possible. And outside the temple, in the courtyard, there's usually people sitting there with brooms and clay pots, which you can buy. So, you don't have to carry your own brooms and clay pots. So you can buy them at, fairly small amount of money. And then you go in, and there's a big well in there, in the courtyard inside, and you fill up the pots with that well from the with water, and you go inside and use the water and the brooms to start cleaning all the area. So we've been lucky enough to do that twice, and usually all the cleansing is done by midday, and then I think the first time that we went in the afternoon, then we went to Alarnath to see to have Jagannath Prasad, because you don't get Jagannath Prasad at the temple until the evening. So that's what usually happens, and it's unfortunately non-Bharati people are not allowed inside. The same as Jagannath temple.
But it's an amazing task to clean. There's probably hundreds of devotees who come with so much water, sweeping and this clearing of all the dirt over the year. It does take time, and it is a wonderful effort. It's cleansing, for the Lord to appear in Jagannath. Suresh, you wanted to say anything?
No, I was thinking, there shouldn't be bias that whether you're Bharatiya or not. Anybody.
Yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This is really not good. And in fact, Prabhupada appealed to the Jagannath administration to please allow the temple administration, please allow the devotees to come, whether they're from inside of Bharat or outside of Bharat, shouldn't matter.
I think the initial thing for the Jagannath temple was that there was a lot of Muslims around the area, Orissa and Bengal, and because they used to eat meat, that's why they didn't.
No. It's before that. It was when the Mughal invaders came. They were destroying the deities. And because they were destroying the deities, there was a rule made at that time that you don't come in this temple. You are not allowed. No foreigners are allowed. Only even if you're born in Bharat, but you are from a different religion, you're not allowed to come. You don't know how to treat the deities. That was the real reason why that happened. But unfortunately now, you could say it's a little out of date.
Yeah. I mean, even, Indira Gandhi, when she was Prime Minister, she was not allowed in because she married a Muslim person, even though she was born in a Hindu family. But that's what it is. That still carries on to date.
Yeah, so they didn't allow the Prime Minister of India into the temple.
So what are we? No, but that's understandable. That's right, because that is a very pure area.
Yeah.
And there should be a discipline in that respect.
Yeah, the sanctity should be maintained. That's true. Yeah.
Prabhuji, how do they check? Do they look at passports and everything?
No.
They can tell somehow.
They can tell, yeah. I remember when we first went to Jagannath, it was quite difficult to get in because, we had to hide our bead bags and don't wear dhotis because they know you're an ISKCON devotee and probably think, you're from overseas temple, so don't let you in.
Somehow they used to know. This is going back 20, 25 years.
30.
Yeah, so those days it was quite difficult. Nowadays it's a bit more lax. They don't ask you, but they would ask you where you're from, and once you open your mouth, they would know straight away. that you're a foreigner, even though you speak proper Hindi, they can tell, and they'd ask you for your gotra and everything.
And they should really be immigration officers because they can suss out
A foreigner.
straight away.
No, but when we go to India, when we go from UK, they can recognize, they can smell us.
Exactly.
No, I think what it is, they see pound signs in our eyes.
That's true. It's written on our face.
They're so good. They got this mystic power, Madhusudan Babu?
No, I just wanted to say it's also because of the British who used to loot the temples and take away the wealth and everything, don't they? And especially Jagannath, the deities, they used to have jewels and diamonds and all sorts.
True.
They were worshipped in amazing ways, but they were being, even the British looted a lot, of the temples. So, a lot of the wealth is hidden away.
Yeah, good point,
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Nice one. So, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, 12th chapter, there are about 50 verses which describe this cleansing of the Gundicha temple. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they would get the brooms and the water pots, which are supplied actually by the authorities. And he engaged hundreds of devotees, and he personally would be there sweeping the dust and the straws and the grains of sand all into one place. And they would have a competition. They would they would have a competition as to who's going to have the biggest pile. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would encourage all the devotees to gather as much dust as possible. And he would look at each devotee and he would check if somebody's cleaning it nicely. He'd say, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And if somebody's not doing it nicely, he would still say, Hari Bol, but he would be doing that in a more instructive way. And there was no talking. There was only Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. That's how they would communicate with each other. It was such an amazing activity that they would perform. So initially they would collect all the larger rocks and piles of dirt and put it all together and throw it out. And then again, they would clean it out again for the finer grains of sand and dust. So they clean it twice. And then they would use water and completely cleanse the walls, the ceilings, the floor, everything, the altar area. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would take off his personal garment, top piece, that's right, the sannyas piece, and he would use that to cleanse the temple, polish it, and he would clean it so thoroughly. They would all clean so thoroughly that it became very pleasing to the mind of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and to the mind of the devotees. So this is what happens. Now, there you go, you can see he's using his top piece there. He's taking his top piece off and he's cleansing the altar. It's very beautiful. Now, there's the inner meaning. Now, when I showed this to Jayanti yesterday, she fell asleep. And she complained there's a little bit too much philosophy. So there's a little bit of philosophy here. But I'd like to ask a question to the devotees. Would we like the Lord to come and sit in our heart? I mean, he was already there as Paramatma. But would you like him to come and sit in our heart and to communicate with us, talk to us, guide us, love us? What do you think? Would we like that?
He does that all the time.
He does, as Paramatma. But we don't always hear him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Pidamba?
Definitely.
I'm glad somebody said definitely. Anybody else? Would you like the Lord to appear in your heart?
Yeah, sure, why not?
Why not? We got nothing else to do. Why not?
I think he is there anywhere.
He's there, Neelamben.
He's there.
Can you hear him all the time?
Yes, I hear him. I talk to him. I everything. Yeah.
Well, you're a fortunate soul.
And I get answered as well.
Sorry?
I get answers as well very
all
soon, one way or the other.
right. But we're talking about a conversation which is very personal. And it can only happen if we clean our hearts. Right?
Yes.
And the way to clean our hearts is Harinam Sankirtan, Ketodapana Marjanam. When we chant and hear the holy names of the Lord, the glories of the name, then we can cleanse our heart. And we want to keep our hearts cleansed so that the Lord can continue to live within our heart. Because we want the Lord to give us directions and guide us. Now, this is the example which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has set for us. How we can do this by cleaning our hearts of all the dirt that is within our heart. And what is this dirt? Our material desires, our motives. We want to increase our material upliftment. We want to get a better job. We want to get a better house, etc. And nothing necessarily wrong with those things. But when they consume our lives, and even after understanding so many instructions about the holy name, we continue to maintain material attachments, that's when they become roadblocks for us, our development of our spiritual consciousness. So at the moment, we cannot really perceive the Lord's presence in our heart. And until our hearts are cleansed, that's not going to happen. There is a process. And the process is, as we've talked, chanting and hearing the holy names of the Lord. And if we can do that in a proper mood, then we will become purified of our material desires. What is a material desire? It's to enjoy anything other than to serve and please Krishna. So we want to try to minimize those material desires and maximize our desire to serve Krishna. And to do that, it's a simple process, hearing and chanting of Hare Krishna. That's how we remove the material desires. There's nothing wrong, there's no offense to have material attachments. It's natural. We are born in this world in a material body, and there are automatically connections to this material body. Family, friends. But what is offensive is when we've heard so many instructions about the futility of material life, and we continue to maintain those attachments, even after understanding so many instructions about the holy name. That's the 10th offense to the holy name. So if we are sincere in our intention of clearing our material desires and having spiritual desires, and the Lord within our heart, He will help us. But that sincerity has to be there. It's not that we make a show of being devotees for whatever purpose. There may be purposes of getting followers or adoration from others. So if we are sincere, the Lord will help us. Just like Mahaprabhu and the devotees worked so hard to keep this temple clean, we also, especially when we come first to the Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, we associate with the devotees, we take the process, we may have bad habits, and especially if we have the 4 gross sinful habits, we want to try to eliminate those. And those 4 things which can really become very bad roadblocks for us are eating meat, fish, and eggs, having intoxications, engaging in illicit sex, and gambling. So devotees generally, when they first come, if they have these gross sinful activities, they generally can be given up reasonably quickly, so that's the big rocks and particles of dust which is cleared. And then we have to do a second clean, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He cleaned the temple a second time to look at the finer dirt, the attachment to the sinful activities that we may have given up the sinful activity, but still we're thinking about. those sinful activities, perhaps doing them. Or there are more subtle bad habits to get rid of, like pride, anger, greed, arrogance. Or this thing like name and fame, that yes, I'm recognized now as a great devotee. These are, again, very bad obstacles in our devotional life. Therefore, there's a second cleansing that takes place. And in order to progress through these 9 stages of bhakti, Shraddha, faith; Sadhu Sangha, having devotion, association of devotees; Bhajana Kriya, doing bhakti; Anartha Nivritti, which is getting rid of our bad habits. All these things we help by the cleansing of the hearing of the holy name and the chanting of the holy name, help us go through these 9 stages. And I'm going to go through these 9 stages in a little bit more detail in just a little few minutes. So up to Anartha Nivritti, we will face difficulties, and we have to be very careful guarding against these bad habits. So to keep cleaning, keep cleaning, keep cleaning. And then after that, it becomes a little bit easier. But the process is still the same. The cleansing still takes place. And the cleansing process is the same. Hearing and chanting. That never stops throughout all of this. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gives us this wonderful metaphor of the seed of devotional service. He calls it the Bhakti Lata Bej. We have to become gardeners. Now, I know we got some very green fingers in this exalted set of devotees, especially Pitambar. So we're going to do a little bit of gardening now. So we've got the seed of Krishna consciousness. We've planted the seed, and some have spiritual masters, and we're watering this seed by hearing and chanting. Now we've got to be careful. Okay, before we go there, what do we have to be careful of? The seed has been planted. The plant is coming up. The creeper is coming up. We're watering the creeper. What do we have to be careful of in the garden, Pitambar?
Weeds.
Yes, weeds. Because whilst we're watering, we're also watering the weeds. So the weeds will also come up. So we've got to be very good gardeners. These weeds can also become very strong. And if they become too strong, they can choke this plant, this creeper of devotion. So we have to be very good gardeners. Now, I know you're not going to be able to see this very clearly. So we've actually split this into 3. And I'm going to go through all these, the whole of this creeper. This plant is going through what we just talked about. Shraddha, Sadhu, Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Ashakti, Bhava, and Prema. So these are the 9 stages. So we've planted the seed, we're now watering it, slowly, slowly growing. So now what we have to do is understand where we are in this process and how we can protect our Bhakti Lata Bej, that creeper of devotion. And this is the whole point of this cleansing of the Gundicha Mandir, cleansing of our heart by the chanting and the hearing of the glories of the holy name. To grow this seed into a nice plant, which will grow so much that it will ultimately end up in the spiritual world at the lotus feet, and we'll be offering ourselves to the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna when we reach this prema, this one here, this bit here, the fruit of devotion, which is prema bhakti. That's where we want to end up. Where we are in this journey, that is an individual thing that only you will know. And unfortunately, ignorance is very strong in this age of Kali Yuga. We may not be even aware where we are on this within these stages of bhakti. So let's have a look at this a little bit more closer. This is the seed that's been planted. And the planting is done by Shraddha, faith. Faith that there is something sublime that exists out there, which is always protecting me, it's always looking after me, it's always communicating with me like Neelam Ben has, right? There's always this communication that's taking place. When I'm doing something, by coincidence, something happens and I'm thinking, wow, Krishna, thank you very much. You again, you're showing me, you're present, you're protecting me. That's showing some self-awareness, awareness of Supreme Lord as well, the Paramatma. Now, when we get enough Shraddha, we start going to the temple, we associate with the devotees, and you've got to be careful, because when we associate with devotees, we need to water this plant with kindness, mercy, forgiveness, truthfulness, simplicity, quality, patience, gravity. This will all assist this plant to grow. But there are things which will not help. Ignorance, false ego, attachment, hatred, absorption to material, worldly objects. And there's also 4 types of sins we have to be careful of. Sins which are fructified, which we're seeing the result already of sins that we've committed in the past, and we're getting the impact now. Ill health is one, for example. Unfructified sin. So there's sins that we've done for which we haven't yet been punished. And then there's the seed of sin, which is we are taken to this path, but we've also got some bad habits, which is going to lead to further sin. And the worst is the desire seed of sin. And that's the one we want to pluck out at a very early stage. Otherwise, that's going to grow into a very bad weed in the future. And then we grow into, if we get past sadhu sang, we've associated with devotees, we're in the temple, we're doing bhakti, or even outside the temple, don't have to be in the temple. In fact, traditionally, more devotion is done at home, outside of the temple. And we go to the temple for association, for instructions, for inspiration. But traditional model in Vedic tradition is that the devotion is done outside of the temple, at home, especially if one is a grihastha. So it's not that we need the temple. Temple is there, it does help us, but it's not it's completely essential. So then, Bhajana Kriya, we're getting enthusiasm to perform, they're getting some taste to perform bhakti, and this taste is getting, sometimes it's strong taste, sometimes not so strong. And we sort of sometimes become resolved in doing something, and sometimes we become a little bit laxed. So we have to counteract these ups and downs. And at the same time, we may be struggling with sense enjoyment, perhaps can't hang on to our vows. And we're enjoying the fruits of bhakti. Sometimes when we start bhakti, you get adoration, you get fame, money comes as well because you're worshipping the Lord. When you worship the Lord, Lakshmi automatically comes along. Those things can be weeds which we need to pluck out, spot them, pluck them out, throw them out. Then we are Bhajana Kriya, so let's go to the next level. From Bhajana Kriya, we go to Anartha Nivritti. We want to cleanse our heart. This is the cleansing. This is the place where we spot all the nonsense and we uproot the weeds. And there's all sorts of different. This is all, by the way, from a book called Kadambi Madhuriyani, or something like that, by Vishwanath Chakravarti. Very nice book to read, where he analyzes all the different areas, the weeds that we have to protect ourselves against. So here we've got obstacles which are born from past sinful acts, which lead us to ignorance and false ego, etc. Obstacles born of past pious acts. So we've done good things in the past, but from that we may become somewhat attached to thinking about going to heaven or merging with the Lord, or to just enjoy our senses. Because we've done pious activities, we've got a lot of wealth, we've got a beautiful body, etc., etc. We want to enjoy that. So these are the weeds we have to watch out for. And then there's obstacles born of imperfectly performed bhakti. So this is doing bhakti for material gains, worship, adoration. And then there's obstacles born from past offenses. And this is basically the 10 offenses to the holy name of the Lord. Got to avoid those. So if we clear this stage, then we're on the home run. If we clear this stage, if we are away from making offenses, then we're into nishtha, unshakable resolve. Nothing can stop me from doing bhakti. So then we are going away from the obstacles to devotion. We are now in the positive aspect. But still, the cleansing continues. And the cleansing is the same, chanting and hearing. Then, once we pass nishtha, so there, whatever's favorable to bhakti, we take it on. Whatever's unfavorable, we disregard it. And we engage with the bhakti directly. Then we move into ruchi, we get the taste. When we get the taste, then we can't live without Krishna consciousness. If for one reason we haven't chanted, we're feeling very bad. So the taste is there for bhajan.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, it's regarding the Nishta section.
Yeah.
So if somebody is dedicated to chanting his 16 rounds, would that be at Nishta? Because no matter what happens, he wants to do his rounds, or have I got this totally wrong?
That's definitely part of it.
Part of it.
Definitely part of it. That no matter what, I'm going to chant my rounds. Whether I'm in good health, bad health, whether it's raining, sunny, I will be chanting my rounds. Whether there's a wedding, whether no obstacle will be strong enough to stop me from chanting. That's a good indication of nishtha. It's not enough, but
Yep.
it's good.
And also the principles will be part of the Nishta, that I am not going to drink, I am not going to do, I am not going to be involved in.
Exactly right. Spot on.
And the reason why it goes back to the number 10th of the offenses, because look how many times you've done these kind of activities before, and you've always kind of ended up in a mess, so that after so much knowledge, you're still doing those. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, no, that's good. It also includes desires to fulfill material needs, attachments. So, for example, if we see a Porsche, and we got the money, we can drive nicely, we got the desire to buy the Porsche. We don't need the Porsche, but if we are not strong enough to resist, then we're not in the place of nishtha. Because the whole idea of, there's nothing wrong with having a Porsche. If one is attached to that Porsche, then there's a problem. So if one is attached to fulfilling material desires, then we some way away from nishtha.
I think that's a brilliant point. That that desire has a massive part in So basically, the lower your desire for sense enjoyment, material opulence, and all that, that nishta will start increasing, because that's you got to gain something, you got to get rid of something else.
Yes, and the beauty of this process is it's not that we try to reduce forcefully our material desires, because it's really hard. But when we increase our chanting and hearing, that chanting and hearing with sincerity, the Lord will assist the reduction of the material desires. He will automatically assist us to reduce our material desires. So if we try to artificially control, it may work, it may not work. The chances are it won't work because we're not so strong in this age of Kali. But if we have the assistance of the Lord, then we've got some chance.
Bare necessities is also a costing in life.
Yes.
So that nishta and bare necessity runs in line.
Yes.
I don't know.
It does.
Maybe I'm wrong.
It does. No, you're right. Absolutely
but
spot on.
the quality and the quantity in the nishta, if we can't balance that nowadays, because example, if we buy something for 1p, that will last not long. But then once that is not right, if you that 1p will not last long, then you have to buy another one for the 1p. So you will be ever going on buying the same thing. So that nishta, we would rather buy something quality so that you're not that desire
of course,
is not
of
there
course.
then.
No, we're not saying live in poverty. We're not saying no, not at all. The problem is the attachment, that I can't live without this. That's the problem.
But then there's two ways to look at it, isn't it? We can say in UK nobody lives in poverty anyway. Well, sort of. Everybody's got their own standards. But then on the other hand, the quality has to be there for the nishta to be lower.
It depends on the individual person. Yes, I'll give you an example. Duryodhan.
Yeah.
He had thousands of servants. He had unimaginable wealth. He had hundreds of cooks. They were cooking anything he wanted, right? So he had everything. But he still didn't have peace of mind, right? You look on the other side, Yudhishthir. He had nothing. They were living in the
still
forest.
A king.
No, they were living in
still
the forest.
A king.
They were living in the forest, right?
Yeah.
Remember? They were living in the forest. They had
Yes.
nothing. Absolutely. Even they used to wear one piece of cloth. That was it.
Yeah.
But he had peace of mind.
That's right.
He had nishta. So it's not dependent. Our nishta is not dependent on material objects, but it is dependent on our consciousness. If we can be in complete poverty and yet be completely peace of mind, we can have everything in the world and completely be at war with ourselves.
Yeah, that's a stage we have to come to.
Yes. And this bhakti, these stages actually assist us in controlling our desires and improving our consciousness, controlling our mind, basically. That's the whole idea.
Thank you.
No,
that diagram is worth having on the wall.
If you can find one big enough. I will share this anyway, but I've tried to find a good high resolution of this, but it's not easy to find. But
I think this diagram is a godsend because, you know, as soon as you think something, it's like a monitoring port.
It is. Anyway, let me carry on a little bit because we're at 5 o'clock. Then we go to Ruchi, which is where you got the taste for bhajan, can't live without chanting, etc. And then we've got this attachment to Krishna and Ashakta, very powerful. From Ashakta, you can see there's no weeds anymore because the attachment to Krishna is strong. There's nothing to clear, but we continue with the process of chanting and hearing. That doesn't stop. Continues, takes us to Bhav, where we have got some heavy emotional connection with the Supreme Lord, which ultimately, where we will be in the spiritual world at this level, Ruchi. When you have the taste for bhajan, you are promoted to the spiritual world. Ashakta takes you higher. Ashakta takes you higher. Bhava takes you higher. And prema puts you right at the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. This is where we want to be. This is the fruit of what we're doing. The blossoming of the Bhakti Lata. And there it is, the Madhurya Kadam Bini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. At this level, you can still fall. Bharat Maharaj fell at this level, but the Lord allowed him to remember his past life. And then he achieved Prema Bhakti. This is where we want to be after 2 hours. So if I quickly go through the rest, if the audience don't mind, we have to build, to protect this creeper, we have to protect ourselves. There's something called the mad elephant offense, which is where we do sadhu ninda, we offend devotees. Now, Pitambar, how do you protect the creeper? How do you protect the creeper, the plant? You've taken the weeds out. How do you protect the plant still?
You aid it with, like, if it's a growing plant, or you put it in certain conditions. If it likes greenhouses, you put it in the greenhouse.
Good.
And if you like to, like, for example, if you've got runner beans or tomatoes, and then even the tomato needs working on, because if it's got too many branches, so you have to pluck some of those branches. Different plants are different. And then you also got to watch out for snails. And the way I do that is I put my plants in on the bottom. There's a tray, and I fill it up with water, so there's no way something's going to try to go through it. Hare Krishna.
Very good, very good. So this is the mad elephant, and we build a fence, or put it on a greenhouse. We build a fence. What is this fence? It's to have the company of pure devotees. Just have the company of pure devotees. That's the fence to protect the creeper. And when we have only company of those who are strong in their devotion, then nothing can destroy it. That's our fence. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleaned the temple twice, but he also cleaned the outside of the temple, making sure no dust came inside. This is the fence. This is the fence. So we try to keep bad association out of the way, away from bad association. The colleagues at work who go to the pub, you may have to go, but you protect yourself before you go, with the holy name and the reading and the chanting. So this is very important, to keep this Bhakti Lata bridge going. And there's lots of different varieties of weeds as well. We have to recognize the different weeds. And we don't destroy the plant, rather we destroy the weeds. So many different weeds can come. So many different things can come within them. Oh, Pretty? Yes. Do you want to say something?
Sorry, I think it just went off.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all, Pretty. No problem. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to make it a little bit quick now. So what we want to do is try to become good gardeners, and try to remove these anathas which are in our heart, so that our creeper, our Bhakti Lata bridge keeps growing. And you can see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu even took his top piece off, and he was cleaning the altar so nicely. So we got to do the same. And what does that mean? It just means we have to be very alert. We have to be very serious and sincere, and in order to make sure that our Bhakti Lata bridge grows to the point that it reaches the lotus feet of Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. So this is the whole idea of Gundicha merchant, thank you, to keep our hearts clean through the chanting and through the reading and to the hearing. And this process never stops. We always continue. It's the means, it's the end. The hearing, the chanting. This is where, if we have enough taste for hearing and chanting, then our devotional people will just keep growing. Because even in Golok, Radharani is chanting the holy name of Krishna. It said, Golakera Premadhana, Harinam Sankirtan. Even in Golok, they do Harinam Sankirtan. So this is our ultimate goal. And today we pray, this is the day we can pray to our spiritual master, Prabhupada, Krishna Balaram, Radha Shyamsundar, Radha Madhav, Gonitai, that the Gundicha becomes our heart through the chanting and serving the Lord and his devotees. So just like in the Gundicha, we're cleaning the courtyards in the same way, with the strict instruction of following Guru and Srila Prabhupada. With the broom of the holy name, we are constantly cleaning our heart by chanting the holy name with love, humbleness, sincerity, life after life, until it becomes spotless and smooth with our pure love. So that the Lord can sit there. This is the whole idea. Not just he sits there, but we will be having transcendental pastimes with him, even whilst we are in this world. This is the whole idea. So thank you very much, dear devotees. If there are any questions or comments, please do. We've run out a little bit over time, but I think it was worth the effort, because this is one of the most important lessons that we have to learn in order to become fixed in our Krishna consciousness. I won't go through all these, but I'll leave them on the slide anyway. There's a lot more to say. So, Gundicha Marjana ki jai. So we can chant to Lord Nrsingadev. Karuna, you are with us.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.